There are women who enter a man's life and vanish without leaving a trace. And then there are women who live in the deepest corridors of his mind, years after they've gone. Women he remembers in the quiet hours, when the world is asleep, and the only thing he can hear is his own heartbeat. Sigmund Freud once said, "The mind is like an iceberg. Most of it lies beneath the surface." And that's where she exists for him, in the hidden depths of his unconscious, where no one else can reach. So who is this woman? What makes her unforgettable? Why does her memory refuse to fade, even when time has erased everything else? It begins with one truth. She is not unforgettable because of beauty alone. Beauty fades, and the world is full of beautiful faces. What she possesses is something rarer, something more dangerous. She is the kind of woman who awakens a man's deepest instinct. Not just desire, not just attraction, but the ancient, primal longing to possess and yet protect. Freud believed that love and desire are often born from tension, the delicate dance between wanting and not having, between closeness and distance. The unforgettable woman understands this instinctively. She never gives all of herself at once. She lets him see just enough to crave more, but never enough to fully understand her. He studies her like a mystery he can't solve. Every conversation, every glance, every silence feels deliberate, as though she knows exactly what she's doing. And maybe she does. But here's the secret. It's not an act. Her magnetism comes from authenticity. She knows who she is, and she refuses to shrink to fit inside someone else's expectations. Freud would call this the power of self-possession. A woman rooted so deeply in her own identity that she becomes untouchable. Men don't remember the ones who blend in. They remember the ones who stand alone. She's the woman who could make him laugh one moment and challenge his beliefs the next. She's not afraid to disagree with him, and that disagreement doesn't drive him away. It pulls him closer. Why? Because the human mind values rarity, and in a world full of people desperate to please, a woman who is unafraid to be herself becomes a rare jewel. But there's another layer. The unforgettable woman doesn't chase. She doesn't beg for attention. She allows space, and in that space, his desire grows. Freud wrote about the concept of transference, how emotions from the past are unconsciously projected onto someone in the present. The unforgettable woman often awakens something old in him, a longing from childhood, a memory of a first love, an ache for something he lost long before he met her. This is why forgetting her feels impossible, because she's not just a woman. She becomes a mirror for his deepest desires, fears, and unfinished stories. And here's the cruel truth. A man can move on from the woman he fully understands, but he will chase forever the one who remains just out of reach. The roots of emotional memory. Freud introduced the concept of the unconscious mind, the hidden repository of feelings, memories, and desires that influence our behaviors in ways we're often unaware of. Among these unconscious elements are the archetypes of love and attachment, which originate from early childhood relationships, especially the mother-child bond. According to Freud, the way a boy relates to his mother in those formative years profoundly impacts his future romantic relationships. The mother is the first woman he ever knows, the one who nurtures and shapes his emotional foundation. She becomes a template, a prototype, for all women he encounters later. This is not to say men seek to recreate their mothers romantically, but rather, the emotional qualities they experienced in that early relationship become deeply embedded in their unconscious. These qualities, whether it's warmth, security, or even unresolved conflicts, create a blueprint that influences who they find unforgettable. The unforgettable woman, beyond surface attraction. When we think about women who leave a lasting impression, it's easy to assume it's purely physical attraction or superficial charm. But Freud's theory suggests something much deeper. It's the woman who resonates with the man's unconscious emotional blueprint. She evokes feelings tied to that primal sense of security or unresolved longing. She might remind him, in subtle or profound ways, of the emotional essence he once felt with his mother or early caregivers. This woman is not necessarily perfect or flawless. In fact, what makes her unforgettable is often a blend of both tenderness and complexity, the kind of emotional depth that stirs something primal inside the man's psyche. The power of emotional contrast. Freud also emphasized the role of conflict and tension in emotional memory. The women men never forget often embody a mix of opposites: vulnerability and strength, tenderness and challenge, warmth and mystery. This emotional contrast creates a dynamic tension that deeply imprints on the unconscious mind. Think about it. Memories that are emotionally charged, even if they include pain or confusion, tend to be stronger and more vivid. The unforgettable woman is one who brings these conflicting emotions to the surface, making the connection unforgettable not just for joy, but for the intensity of the experience. The role of projection. One of Freud's most fascinating ideas is the concept of projection, the process where we unconsciously attribute our feelings, desires, or fears onto another person. Men often project their unconscious longings onto the women they encounter, especially those who trigger something deep inside them. The woman who becomes unforgettable is often the one onto whom a man projects not only his desires, but also his fears and unresolved conflicts. She becomes a symbol, a living representation of his inner emotional world. This projection isn't necessarily negative. It can fuel fascination, passion, and deep connection, but it also means that what makes her unforgettable might be partly shaped by the man's own inner psyche rather than objective reality. Understanding this projection helps explain why some relationships linger in a man's memory long after they end. The unforgettable woman becomes a mirror reflecting his deepest desires and fears, sometimes revealing parts of himself he's not fully conscious of. This makes the emotional imprint much stronger, because it's not just about the woman herself, but about what she represents within him. The fatal woman archetype. Freud and later psychoanalysts often discuss the idea of the fatal woman, a woman who captivates a man so intensely that she dominates his thoughts, sometimes even to his detriment. This archetype is not just a romantic ideal. It's an emotional force that can awaken a man's unconscious conflicts around love and loss. The fatal woman embodies both allure and danger. She is magnetic yet elusive, nurturing yet challenging. Freud believed men are drawn to this paradox because it awakens unresolved emotional patterns. This type of woman forces a man to confront parts of himself that are uncomfortable but necessary for emotional growth. Why some women become symbols of first love. Many men carry the memory of their first love, the first woman they truly loved, as a symbol etched in their psyche. Freud's theory suggests that first love represents an attempt to re-experience the emotional security or excitement associated with early attachments. This woman is unforgettable because she taps into the foundational emotional experiences that shaped a man's understanding of intimacy. But Freud also warns that these early impressions can trap men in repetitive patterns. They may unconsciously seek to recreate the feelings they first felt, even if those relationships aren't healthy or sustainable. How to recognize the unforgettable woman. From Freud's lens, the unforgettable woman is someone who triggers deep emotional memories, both conscious and unconscious, embodies a complex mixture of tenderness and tension, evokes projection of desires, fears, and unresolved conflicts, represents, consciously or not, a man's primal blueprint of love and attachment. She is less about perfect traits and more about emotional resonance. This is why even brief encounters with such women can leave lasting impressions. The role of self-awareness in breaking the cycle. Freud's insights aren't meant to trap men in these unconscious cycles, but to illuminate them. The first step to freeing oneself from repetitive, sometimes painful relational patterns is self-awareness. By recognizing the emotional blueprints and projections at play, men can begin to see women for who they truly are, not just as symbols of unresolved past experiences. This awareness allows for healthier, more conscious relationships, where emotional depth is shared without unconscious burdens. The intersection of desire and the unconscious. Freud's exploration of human desire goes beyond mere attraction. He viewed desire as a fundamental force shaped by unconscious drives and past experiences. The unforgettable woman, in this context, becomes a catalyst that ignites those hidden desires. This isn't about physical beauty alone. It's about the unconscious emotional pull she exerts. When a man meets a woman who resonates deeply with his unconscious, desire becomes layered with meaning. She stirs something ancient within him, a yearning that predates the present moment. This is why the unforgettable woman often feels like destiny or fate, because she taps into parts of a man's psyche that are timeless and primal. Freud's concept of the mother complex. A central theme in Freud's work is the mother complex, which describes how unresolved emotions toward one's mother influence adult relationships. Men with a strong mother complex might idealize or struggle with women who remind them of their mother in some way, whether through nurturing qualities or emotional intensity. The unforgettable woman might trigger this complex, bringing to the surface feelings of comfort, guilt, longing, or even rebellion. These emotional undercurrents make her presence hard to forget. Emotional imprints and their lasting effects. Freud's notion of emotional imprints refers to the powerful feelings etched into our unconscious by early relationships. These imprints act as emotional magnets, drawing men toward women who match these early patterns. For example, if a man experienced inconsistent affection in childhood, he might be unconsciously drawn to women who reflect that same unpredictability. The emotional intensity of such relationships can make them unforgettable, but also challenging. Recognizing these patterns helps explain why some relationships feel faded or magnetic, while others fade quickly. The shadow side. Why unforgettable doesn't always mean healthy. While the unforgettable woman leaves a lasting impression, Freud's theories remind us that not all unforgettable connections are healthy or beneficial. The emotional charge behind these relationships can lead to obsession, heartbreak, or emotional confusion. When projections and unconscious patterns dominate, it's easy to lose sight of reality and idealize the other person. Freud encourages us to look beyond the surface of these intense feelings to understand the deeper psychological forces at work. The role of feminine archetypes in Freud's theory. Freud's psychoanalytic framework includes several archetypes of women that play crucial roles in a man's psyche. These archetypes, such as the nurturing mother, the mysterious femme fatale, and the idealized maiden, influence how men perceive and relate to women in their lives. The woman men never forget often embodies a powerful combination of these archetypes, making her presence emotionally complex and deeply resonant. She might carry the warmth of the mother archetype, offering comfort and security, while simultaneously displaying the allure and challenge of the femme fatale. This blend creates an emotional tension that keeps a man psychologically engaged and unable to forget. Attachment styles and emotional imprints. Modern psychology, building on Freud's early ideas, explores how attachment styles formed in childhood impact adult relationships. Secure attachment leads to healthy bonds, while anxious or avoidant attachment can result in patterns of pursuit or withdrawal. The unforgettable woman often triggers these early attachment styles. For example, a man with an anxious attachment might find himself obsessively drawn to a woman who is emotionally distant, mirroring early experiences of inconsistent care. This dynamic intensifies the emotional charge of the relationship, making her impossible to forget. The power of mystery and emotional depth. One reason the unforgettable woman remains etched in memory is her emotional depth and mystery. She often holds parts of herself hidden, not easily understood or fully accessible. This mystery invites curiosity and longing. The unknown elements stimulate a man's unconscious desire to explore and uncover, making the connection more intense. Freud suggested that this allure of the mysterious woman ties back to primal feelings of desire mixed with fear, a cocktail that fuels deep emotional imprinting. How cultural narratives reinforce Freud's insights. From classic literature to modern films, the trope of the unforgettable woman is a recurring theme. Cultural stories reinforce Freud's insights by portraying women who leave lasting impacts on men, often through a mixture of tenderness, challenge, and enigma. These narratives echo the psychological reality that unforgettable connections are rarely simple or purely positive. They are complex, layered with both light and shadow. Practical takeaways. What men can learn. Understanding Freud's theory about the unforgettable woman offers valuable lessons. Self-reflection. Recognize your unconscious patterns and emotional blueprints. Ask yourself why certain women captivate you and what emotional needs they fulfill. Awareness of projection. Be mindful of projecting unresolved feelings onto others. Strive to see women as individuals, not symbols of past experiences. Embrace emotional complexity. Appreciate that deep connections often involve a mix of tenderness and challenge, and that this complexity can be healthy if approached consciously. Seek emotional growth. Use unforgettable relationships as opportunities to understand yourself better, not as traps to repeat old patterns. The Unforgettable Woman and the Journey of Emotional Maturity. Freud's ideas hint that unforgettable women often play a vital role in a man's emotional development. These women challenge men to face their unconscious fears and desires, pushing them toward greater self-awareness and emotional maturity. The emotional intensity they evoke is not just a test, but an invitation, an opportunity to grow beyond old patterns and cultivate a more conscious way of loving. Men who embrace this journey learn to navigate the delicate balance between vulnerability and strength, between longing and presence. They begin to understand that the unforgettable woman is less about possession and more about transformation. Why men remember, but don't always hold on. One of the paradoxes Freud noted is that men often carry unforgettable women in their memories long after the relationship ends. Yet these relationships don't always last. This happens because the unforgettable woman triggers deep unconscious patterns that may be too intense or unresolved to sustain in everyday life. The emotional imprint remains, but the reality of the relationship may not meet the idealized image. This dissonance creates a bittersweet legacy, a woman who remains unforgettable because she represents something more than just a partner. She symbolizes a chapter of emotional awakening. How this understanding changes the way we see relationships. When men understand Freud's theory, they begin to see relationships through a new lens. Instead of fearing or chasing the intensity of unforgettable women, they learn to appreciate the lessons these connections offer. This awareness fosters healthier boundaries and a deeper respect for emotional truth. Men become better equipped to differentiate between the woman who genuinely complements their growth and the projection of unconscious needs that may distort perception. The role of healing in breaking unconscious cycles. Freud's theory also underscores the importance of healing early emotional wounds. Therapy, self-reflection, and emotional education help men identify unconscious patterns rooted in childhood and learn to integrate them. Healing reduces the power of projection, allowing men to relate to women more authentically. This creates space for relationships that are based on mutual respect and genuine connection rather than unconscious repetition. Conclusion: embracing the depth of human connection. In the end, the type of woman men never forget, according to Sigmund Freud, is not just a person but a profound emotional experience, one that reveals the depths of the unconscious mind and the complexity of human desire. She is a symbol of early emotional patterns, a projection of unconscious longing, and a catalyst for growth. Understanding her significance offers men a chance to break free from repetition and step into more conscious, fulfilling relationships. So next time you find yourself thinking about that unforgettable woman, remember, she is not just a memory, but a key to unlocking your own emotional truth. Practical steps to embrace the lessons of the unforgettable woman. Now that we've explored Freud's deep psychological insights into why some women leave an unforgettable mark on men, it's important to translate these ideas into actionable steps. How can a man use this understanding to improve his emotional life and relationships? Cultivate self-awareness. Take time to reflect on your past relationships and emotional reactions. Journaling or therapy can help you uncover unconscious patterns, including projections or attachment issues linked to early experiences. Distinguish between reality and projection. When you feel drawn to a woman intensely, pause and ask yourself what qualities belong to her and what might be projections of your own desires or fears. This mindfulness prevents idealization and opens the door to genuine connection. Accept emotional complexity. Understand that meaningful relationships often include tension, challenge, and mystery. Instead of avoiding these dynamics, learn to sit with discomfort and use it as an opportunity to grow. Seek healing. Address unresolved emotional wounds from childhood or past relationships. Healing these wounds reduces unconscious triggers and helps you build healthier bonds. Practice emotional honesty. Communicate openly and authentically with your partner. Emotional honesty strengthens connection and prevents misunderstandings born from unconscious expectations. Honor boundaries. Recognize when a relationship serves growth versus when it perpetuates unhealthy cycles. Setting and respecting boundaries protect your emotional well-being. The unforgettable woman as a teacher. In many ways, the unforgettable woman acts as a mirror and a teacher. She reflects hidden parts of yourself, both light and shadow, inviting you to explore your inner world more deeply. Embracing this perspective transforms what might feel like emotional turmoil into an opportunity for profound self-discovery. Instead of fearing or resenting the intensity of these connections, you can welcome them as a necessary step on your path to emotional maturity. Freud's legacy in modern relationships. Although Freud's theories were developed over a century ago, their relevance to modern relationships remains strong. By understanding the unconscious forces that shape attraction and attachment, men gain tools to navigate love more wisely. The unforgettable woman is not just a romantic ideal, but a psychological reality, a figure who holds the key to unlocking emotional growth and deeper intimacy. Final thoughts. Remember, the type of woman men never forget is less about her external qualities and more about the emotional imprint she leaves behind. She awakens the unconscious, stirs desire and fear, challenges and nurtures, all in ways that shape a man's emotional landscape. By recognizing and integrating these insights, men can break free from unconscious repetition, embrace emotional complexity, and cultivate relationships that are not only unforgettable but deeply fulfilling.